Hi friends, and welcome to my weekly stream about the Uno platform. My name is Jérôme Laban. I'm the CTO of the open source project Uno platform, and I spend about an hour every week talking about the news about Uno platform and taking a look at issues, answering questions, and live. And if you're on the stream today, welcome. I see Jose is here and Meknitz, welcome. Thanks for joining. And we'll discuss this week two topics. The first one is the Uno Platform 4.7. It was released last week, and that's why there was no live stream last week, because we were busy releasing that version. And also taking a look at a combo box issue that was that was reported, and we can take a look at fixing that issue. So on the news lately, Uno 4.7, lots of new things that have been happening, and I want to mention also the fact that we released a blog by one of our regular contributors to the blog, which is by Gérard Galland, and who talks about all the things that happened in 2022 about WebAssembly and why it impacts Uno platform, and why the upcoming year in 2023, lots of good things are going to be happening, especially garbage collection, which is a feature flag now in the latest Canary for Chrome. So very excited about this one, and we don't know where it's going to go, but that's going to be very interesting. So lots of interesting developments in WebAssembly, and interestingly, the part that seems to pick up a lot of steam is the WebAssembly and containers, or running in the, let's say, running at the edge or in the cloud. And it looks like the community there has been taking WebAssembly, embracing it completely and making all sorts of interesting features around this, because of the features the features that are coming from WebAssembly, like memory security and isolation, and a lot of other features that are brought up by this, like WASI and others. So it's going to be a very interesting year to see this unfold. So now let's talk about Uno Platform 4.7. So this one is actually a big one. We made all sorts of modifications, but the biggest one is the new project template, and we're going to talk about this one. And the new project template is all about getting rid of the shared project. So if you've been using Uno or been in the .NET ecosystem for a while, you may have known about the shared projects. And we've been using this as a shared project as a kind of a, let's say, workaround for missing features in Visual Studio. And now the thing is that we started adding additional features and support for Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio Mac, and it started to get flaky. So to get back on tracks in a sense, and avoid kind of mixing developers around when they're trying to use all those features, we started moving to the to using standard class library instead of a shared project. So that part here, and it has a lot of benefits, and one of the big ones is the fact that Visual Studio works a lot better with it, but also the fact that when you're adding a dependency to that specific project, then it flows transitively automatically to the other projects, whereas previously you would have had to add references to each individual project. So it makes it easier all across the board. The only particular drawback of using that approach is that because that project is a cross-targeted project, it makes it a little bit slower, because it builds multiple projects at once, multiple target frameworks at once. So it's a little bit slower. But we're discussing this, and I'm gonna post something to the chat. And if you're taking a look at, if you're watching the stream now, or if you'll be watching it later, let me find this. There's an issue that's on the there's an issue that's been open on the developer community on Visual Studio that mentions that specific performance issue, where if you're just building for Windows, there's no point in building all the target frameworks that are inside of that library, just the Windows one. So that's the kind of things that are drawbacks of moving to that. But we expect that this will be fixed at some point in the future. And we're hopeful there. We made also a big change, which is the support for shared fonts. And that one is particularly interesting. It's all about making sure that when you're adding fonts to your project, you can add it only at one location, and then it will be available on all targets at once without having to fill it around with info.plist or other pieces of the project system that may be complicated to deal with. Now you just add the font and the assets folder in the common library or a shared project for that matter. It works the same way, and it will be automatically available for all targets, including WebAssembly. Then we made also all sorts of improvements like the XAML trimming updates. So this particular feature is all about making sure that we're, when you're building an application, we're not including styles and templates for controls that you're not using. And you can enable that feature by visiting that link here. And it will allow you to enable the trimming, which is going to be analyzing your application and remove the code inside. And that's interesting because for the Uno calculator, and we take a look at that. Let's take a look at the calculator here. I think I have it here. We can see that the size of the application has gone down from 45 megabytes uncompressed to 33.7 megabytes down. So that's pretty good. And if you want to take a look at it by yourself, you can take a look at the network tab here, and you can see that. Well, yeah, the service worker that's downloading, so it's downloading the application again. But if you take a look at all the content that's just at the beginning, it stops at 8 something. So when you refresh the page, it goes down to a lot less of the content. So that's pretty good. So that's for the XAML trimming, and then we made a lot of other updates like the support for WebAssembly, JS export and import, and it's an 8% improvement at runtime. So if you have a large application that loads a lot of UI elements, that is going to improve your runtime performance, especially if you're doing bindings and loading, unloading a lot of control. So we have clients and users of Uno that have that kind of application. So this is quite interesting. There's also a native AOT that was added. So this is specific to GTK and Linux frame buffer. So those two are mostly on Windows, Linux, and Mac. But running using our GTK backend. So that's one of the interesting things. And it allows your application to run a lot faster from the get-go without having the JIT compiling your application as you update it. And we made a few other changes with regards to .NET 7. So that one is actually still coming up. It's something that will be a service release of Uno 4.7. That's going to be probably today or tomorrow. Which is going to be fixing the support for Android on .NET 7, which was breaking when trying to build an application from the store. And we had an interesting discussion with the .NET folks about this, and Uno was using a feature that actually broke the Android SDK, and we have a workaround for this. The issue is still there, but it's not impacting Uno as much at that point. So that's pretty interesting. And that's it. So that's all that we have for Uno 4.7. Now, what we're going to do is take a look at an application that is not using that structure and try to migrate it over to that new structure and see how it behaves. So I see there are a few questions. So McNet is asking, if I add a new class project to the Uno solution, must it still target Net Standard 2 or Net 7? So it can go to Net 7 now. If you don't need to do Net Standard 2. Net Standard 2, for those who don't know about that, what that particular target framework is, it was used for Uno before .NET 7 to target WebAssembly and WPF, GTK, and Linux frame buffer. But now we've upgraded everything so that now you can use Net 7 altogether when you're creating class libraries. And we're going to take a look at that when we're going to be doing the upgrade for the application that I was talking about before. So there's Navio who says, I'm using Skia and I with WebAssembly. I suppose it's I want to use WebAssembly, and hardware rendering is not working. Okay, so that one is actually quite interesting. We're going to take a look at that because the application that I want to migrate is the an UNO sample. So it's our repository here. UNO samples. So if you go to UNO samples here, you're going to see that we have a lot of samples that are slowly being migrated over to .NET 6. And there's one specifically that's called C## test, which demos the support for C#. And let's see if we can get that application running. So let's go take a look at what it does already. It's actually an older template that's been there for quite a while. And that one's been updated to use .NET 6. Actually, .NET 7. I'm not too sure if I think it's .NET 6 because our CI is still on .NET 6. But we're going to be able to update it to .NET 7 pretty soon. And let's take a look at what that one does. Okay, so this one is, I think it's the older one. Okay, so let me just pull back the changes from master here. I think Git is broken. Oh no, it's working. Okay, there you go. I thought it was broken because on my other machine it does some weird things. Okay, so let's see. So just one question, Navio. Which browser are you using? And in which context are you using? Because the hardware rendering depends on the browsers, and sometimes it can behave differently, especially if I think it's Firefox sometimes. Okay, so if it's Chrome, it's different. So let's see if we can get something running here. So let's go take a look at the samples. We're going to be opening the C# test sample. Okay. So let's go see. So we have, so this project is using the old share project structure, and you can see the icon is a little bit different. So it uses the, oh, my apologies, I'm too big. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Okay, so this is the project that is using here the smaller the share project. So you can see that it uses the icon, so the green icon, and we're going to be changing this to be using the new structure for the project. So let's see here. So if I take, for instance, WebAssembly, so let's take a look at your problem here to see if you're having if actual hardware rendering is working. So when you say it's not working, what's happening? Are you having issues? Is it crashing the browser? What is it doing? So let's see. I have my bill here. Okay, so let's start. Oh, looks like my task manager did an update with the new. Okay, so it looks like it's still just still building. It's probably just restoring things around. This is a new behavior of the newer version of Visual Studio. I don't know where that comes from, but it's annoying. So we're gonna be, okay, so it's still doing things around. Okay, so not helping at all. Okay, so let's terminate Visual Studio. We're going to be doing a restore. I think we're going to be reporting that specific issue to the .NET team where this happens very often, and it's a problem. Okay, so if I open again the samples. Yeah, okay, so okay, it fails there, but what is the problem? So you're pointing a line, but do you have an exception? Do you have a crash? Do you have a what tells you that it is a problem? So let's see if the build is better this time. Okay, this is better. So we still do have a few things that we can update. Like for instance here, so this message is only happening because we're on .NET 6. That should be a little bit better next time. So let's take a look at the project structure. So this is a .NET 6. So if we move to .NET 7, we're not going to have that problem anymore, but we're not updating it yet because on the RCI it's not updated yet. So we should be good later. Okay, so if we take a look at what's happening currently, we have the VBCS compiler that's running. Then we have Ninja, which is the build process that's used in the back to create the WebAssembly packages. It runs the linker as well. Should be quite fast because we're in debug. And then we have Wasm LD that was running. It was very short, but should be good. And there we should be done. There we go. Okay, so let's see. We have the hardware acceleration that's still breaking. Okay, so we have a few errors here. Oh, I see. Okay, so there we have, we probably on a, let's take a look at the version of Uno that we have here. So probably, so we're on the later version. Okay, so this is not working. So we have that sample here that's not working properly. I thought that one was implemented properly, but it looks like it's not. So that is something that we can fix. That is actually quite interesting because I thought that was implemented. So let's see. Let's go see for WebAssembly in Uno if we have that properly implemented. So let's go open this particular bit and see if we haven't implemented that properly. Okay, so let's search for, oh, I think I have a bit too much checked out. So let's revert all this. Okay, I don't have anything here. Let's go back to our default branch. We're going to take a look at why that specific piece is not there. So I thought it was implemented, so maybe there's something that we missed in implementation. So it looks like the sample is not working properly, or maybe we implemented it in a later version of Uno and it got missed. So we're going to figure that one out. Okay, so lots of files to pick up. Okay. So for this one, we're going to be opening just the Net7 because we want to go to WebAssembly. So WebAssembly is this one in this override. So we're opening the Visual Studio solution just for this particular implementation. So vertical. So we're talking about every single platform that Uno platform is supporting. So we're talking about WebAssembly, mobile, Skia, and we're going to get to specific details. Okay, so we're searching for rasterization scale. And let's see where is that particular implementation. Okay, so it says rasterization scale is implemented. It's a part of XAML root, but maybe we're not looking at the right one. So maybe I should get the rasterization scale. Okay, so maybe that's the part where it doesn't work. So maybe we can change the sample to make it work better. So instead of using the rasterization scale on the element itself, we could probably just manipulate that. So here we have the scale that's determined in that context, and we can see that it's actually not implemented. So we're going to change that. So let's go for the XAML root instead. So we have the XAML root. So this is main page. I see that Bruno is here, Mark Patterson. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we have the XAML root rasterization scale. So let's try again. So this one is implemented. So interestingly, that means that we're missing one property, and that property on rasterization scale here for a UI element is not implemented. So we're going to have to implement that one. But interestingly, I don't see that property. So maybe it's a WinUI specific property. That may very well be. So if we take a look at the the sources of Uno, it may be just new and was never provided. So rasterization scale. Yes. Okay. So that's probably why. So this is a WinUI specific property that was not there on UWP. So we're providing the API because Uno is generating the whole API surface automatically, but if it may not have been implemented correctly. Okay. So this is the proper implementation, and we can see that we were using a property that was not the right one. So now the sample is going to be fixed. This is good. Okay. So if we switch to hardware accelerated, so Navio. This is what I'm seeing. Let's see if we have anything here in the debugger. No, we don't have anything. So maybe there's something that that we're not seeing here. It's probably best if you open a discussion on the Uno platform repo with the details of what you're seeing, because at that point I'm not seeing anything that doesn't work properly. So so in here I'm using so we're on the stream, it's probably a bit too slow, and I'm on remote desktop on another machine, so not super fast, but it really is using a GL canvas. So I don't think we can see it here. Checkbox. I don't know if we can see it properly here. Yeah, it's just two canvases, so we don't see what kind of a drawing is done there. But let's go see the sources quickly. So in the sources, if we go in the package, we're going to be seeing something that's called SkiaSharp Views Uno Wasm. And then inside there, we should be seeing something that's called SK Swipe Chain Panel. And there's a lot of things here that are about rendering. So we have the create context, we have the swap chain here that's using the create WebGL context, and a few other things like GL create context and other pieces like this. So it really means that we're actually using WebGL to render the content here. WebGL content. So the wrapper is provided by SkiaSharp, and underneath SkiaSharp is using WebGL and the implementation and the backend that's provided by Emscripten to access everything else. And when we're not using hardware rendering, that one is using just plain byte array to render the content using software rendering. So it's slower, of course, but in some cases it can be useful. So let us know, Navio, if you have anything that doesn't work there. Okay, so if we take a look at the sample itself, so I'm just going to make a branch quickly. Scale. Nope. I'm going to call it. All right, let's do it. Remove shared project. There you go. So we're going to fix the it's the rasterization scale. Okay, so we have rasterization scale is not available on UI element, so that one we're going to have to fix. I'm going to create a new issue for that. Okay, so what I want to do is change the shared project here to be a class library. So what I can do is two things. The first one is just create a new template, or just create a separate project library. So what we're going to do for this one is adjust the project completely. So what we can see here is that the structure is a little bit different. So what we're going to do is just create a new project and just migrate everything over to the new one. And we're going to be replacing everything up for now, at least. If some people are interested, we're going to be providing a way to migrate from shared projects to the new class library templates. It's not mandatory to migrate to the new one. It's just that if you want to, you can do it. Okay, so let's create that new project. And we're going to be going for the Uno app platform. So we're going to be naming it the same way so that we can replace the sources directly. So it's SkiaSharp test. Yeah, the part where you don't need to migrate is very important, and it's not something that we're forcing onto developers that are currently using Uno. It's just something that we want to migrate to over some time, but if you're not forced at all to move to that. But I'm going to be showing you what needs to be done to migrate to that one. So there's only one thing that I'm doing at this point. It's just because the structure is a little bit different. So we're gonna see the difference between the two. So let's create that new project. So we're going to be using the same targets. So we need mobile, we need iOS, Android, WinUI, GTK. Let's go for Catalyst as well. And let's go for the Skia frame buffer and WPF. Okay, so that's the two. It's just AppKit is not there. There you go. So that is going to be the new project template. So the one I'm going to be showing you is a little bit different from the one that's published, and we're going to be publishing an update later today or tomorrow, where the app.xaml is a little bit different. I'm gonna guide you through the changes. Okay, so this is the new template. Now, what's different from what is currently published in the current template, so in 4.7, is that you don't have those two files. This is the app.cs, and it allows for developers to use the app from the main page. And that's the thing, is that the app.xaml must be in the head, because WinApp SDK doesn't work any other way. So we have to keep that file in that location. So you can see that the app head is available in all the projects here. And what we're going to be doing is mostly modifying everything that's here. So that's why we created those two files. So the first thing that we want to do is bring over the C# code. So for the main page, so this is not going to change. This is completely the same. Let's pull this in. Then we're going to be pulling the main page.xaml as well, if it wants to open. So, okay, so that's the old one. The old one is here. Let's take all the Skia stuff, put it in the main page. There you go. So you can see that most of it is not, the IDE is not happy because it doesn't know about SK XAML canvas, and we're going to be adding the references to it, so that it is resolved properly. So Miknitz is asking, is app visible now? Yes, it is. So it is going to be here. So, and the trick is that this app is actually the same as the one that you know when you're using a standard application. It inherits from application from Microsoft UI XAML, Microsoft UI application. But the difference is that in the head, there's an app.xaml here, but it's super small. And it inherits from the one that is coming from the class library. So we've been doing this so that you can keep all the overrides and the app.xaml, and you can access app directly without changing anything, and it makes it easier to reason with. And same thing goes for the app resources.xaml. It's the same thing as the app here, app head in the project, but it's all located in under the class library. Okay, so now we have this XAML page that runs properly. So what we're going to do now is take the dependencies that we had previously, so everything with regards to Skia#, and put it into the project. So what we need is a few things first, and we need a Skia# views WinUI. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just pick up the discussions that we had on the Uno repository that was discussing this specifically. And I think it was 3 days ago. I think it's that one. I think I answered how to, no, it's just actually Skia. There was a discussion about Skia recently. Ah, there you go. Okay, so I answered something. So we need to take all the dependencies. So we need to make a difference. So because the project here is cross-targeted, so the new one, not the old one. The new project here is cross-targeted. We need to add conditional definitions, packages, so that when we're building for net 6 here, so actually it's net 7. It's net 7. When we're building for net 7, we're going to take the Skia#.WinUI, which is the official version that is used for WinApp SDK application. And when it's not Net 7 Win 10, then we're going to be using the Uno version of the same package, which is compatible here. So that's the way to fix it. So now if I save and go back to my main page, in a few seconds, we see that the packages are being restored, and we should be seeing that the XAML canvas are going to be going away if it's building properly. Let me see. It says I could probably need to build at least once so that it works properly. Let's see. Okay, so it says a lot of things. So we have a lot of errors there. So let's see what we do have. So we have OpenTK that was not restored properly. Did I miss something? Let's see. Here, sharp test. So we're on Net 7. We're not on Net 7. We're going to be using the WinUI version of the Uno packages. Is it the right target framework as well? Maybe. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're seeing that it's Net 6, Net 7. So we're going to be making sure that we have the right. Oh, okay. So that's why it didn't work properly. So we need to be using the exact same target framework as the one that's above at the top. Probably should be changing that. So it's restoring again. Let's see if I build the class library here. Is it better now? Okay, so we're still having a few errors. So it says SKIA-sharp higher reference of the runtime here, and it doesn't work properly. Okay, so this is generally required because the library here, we need to change that specific number. And I think we should be adding something that was in another project. And you can see that it's something that we're going to help. So we need to change that number. And I don't know exactly why that happens, but that number needs to be taken care of. So let me see. Let me show you where to look that number up. So when you're seeing things like WinRT runtime, which has a higher version that reference assembly WinRT, blah, 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 that means that the framework reference here are not the right ones. So to find out which number to put here, generally you put the latest that you can find. And to find the latest, you just go to NuGet.org and NuGet.info, and you search for that package, and you take the number at the end. So you can see here that it's 28, and you put 28, and that should be good enough. So let's see if we rebuild. Is it better this time? Lots better. Don't even have any error messages that are showing up. Okay, so there we go. So we have a build of the class library here that references SKIA-sharp, and it has the dependencies added properly, and we can see that it works properly. So that's good. Now let's try to see if the Windows build works first. So does it work? So you can see that I'm running a preview build of Visual Studio. So that's why we're seeing the error messages or the warnings that are saying that I'm running on preview bits. It's because it's 7.0.102. And we got our hardware rendering and software rendering that are working properly. Okay, so that we have migrated from one to the other. Now let's see for WebAssembly. And it's likely that it's going to fail, and I want to show it to you anyways, because we're missing something, and I want to show the error on the stream so that if people are taking a look at the stream, they can figure out how to fix it. So let's see, what do we have now in Ninja running? So yes, all XAML files. So Miknet is saying by default all XAML and XAML CS has to be copied and pasted in new app project. Yes, and in practice, most likely what you're going to be needing to do is just change the shared project files themselves. So the project that are defining everything to the rest. Oh, it's working. Okay, so maybe it shouldn't be working, and I know because we have the other project that's working. So let me try to rebuild again, and you're gonna see that it's not gonna work. So we're still running the site from the previous app. So yeah, the idea is that, see, so it doesn't work. So the reason why it doesn't work, and I think, well, that's interesting. So it probably all levels default verbose. Okay, let me try again. Probably logging is not enabled here. So let's see why we don't have anything here. Logging. Let's see. We have the logging enabled. By the looks of it, there's something that's not working properly. So let me check if there's something odd there. Let's see if we move the initialize logging. I think there's something that's not working properly there. Let's try again. Because there's supposed to be an error, and if it doesn't show, it means that there's something that's broken. It generally means that it's because the logging is not initialized properly. So we're going to be initializing the logging properly. But it should have been initialized properly, but it looks like we're missing something. So yeah, to your question, McNet, so it's basically about replacing the csproj, so the shproj file that is in your share project content with the new csproj file, and just leave it be, because it's going to be taking everything that is present in the same folder, and then it will pick up everything else. Okay, so for some reason the logging is not initializing, and I'm not sure why. Is it because I'm not in debug? Yes, we're in debug. Did I miss something here? Okay, so let's figure this one out. So let's add some troubleshooting here. So if we're doing some right line, let's see, are we going through that line specifically? So I want to make sure that we're going here. I'm doing a right line because I don't want to use the debugger yet. And we're going to see if we're executing everything that's needed here. And okay, so the application is still running. So that's the application that's serving the site that we're building. So the build is taking a little bit longer because it's using SkiSharp. So that's one of the reasons for the longer time for build. Now, what's interesting is that it should be, it looks like it's referencing something that makes the build a little bit longer. Okay, so for what I can see is that my test here is not executed. So for some reason, there's something that's not working properly. And I wonder, that's very curious. That is very curious. So it looks like we did break something up. So let's go take a look at the creation of the app. Ah, that's why. Okay, there you go. So let's see. Let's change this part, and we're going to be using app head. It's app head instead. That's why. Okay. Okay, so that should be a little bit better. And we should be having more logging, and the errors that are showing up, hopefully that's going to help us troubleshoot what's happening. I wonder why it's that long still. Shouldn't be okay, so it's still running. Okay, so the interesting part is that it looks like we're adding some of the dependencies automatically. And I wonder if it's because we have, so we are not referencing, Skia is referenced automatically. That's because of Lottie, I think. Let's see where that one comes from. So what I was expecting to fail is the fact that referencing Skia sharp without referencing what is called the let me see, on the other one, it's called the native assets, WebAssembly with native assets, but it may be that those assets are referenced automatically when referencing the UNO one. So let's see if we get those ones. So if we go to Net7 here, and we go to packages, and we have Skia sharp. There it is. Okay, so it's referenced automatically, so you don't need to do anything. So that's the good part. So I was under the assumption that it was different, but now that's good. Now quickly, let's see if Skia sharp. So the Skia sharp test for Skia is working properly, and it's likely to be. There you go, and that's good. Then what else do we have? I think, so the one thing that we have, so we have the same issue here, is the head. I don't know if you noticed, but the checkbox was not working properly. It was not there at the top, so now it is. It's because the target at the top was not available. Okay, so that's it for the migration to the new cross targeting. So those two files are going to be present tomorrow, most likely, and you're going to be able to update a bit more to that new structure. So that's it. So now let's go take a look at the new issue that we had, and it's the missing selected item in combo box by default if it is represented as an item in item central. Okay, so that's a long one, but we're going to try to replicate the issue. Okay, so for that one, let's create a new template because we don't have a repro for this particular issue. And let's call it repro. And we're going to be using those targets. Those are good enough. We don't need iOS, Android. Well, actually, let's skip them, but we don't need them. And that should be good enough. So, so that's the thing about copy pasting XAML using images. You don't get to copy and paste into an existing app. So when you're creating issues, please don't do this. Copy and paste the text, not the XAML, not the image. So on this one, we have just two things to change because the template is not the right one. And we had that, and we had that one as well, which is incorrect. Okay. So in the XAML, we're going to be doing an items control. We're going to be creating an items control. So let's create just a stack panel. And we have an items control inside. With an item source. I'm going to bind to a list of items. That item control has an item template, which has a data template and a combo box inside. Item source. Let's use a binding this time. Numbers. And we have a selected item. Actually, maybe, no, I didn't ask for a repro, so. Okay, selected number, let's do the same thing. And we're good here. That should be enough. Now, in the C# file, we're going to be adding the same thing. So let's make it a property. So we have a list. So it's the item source is a item source is called numbers. And it's a list of item. And we're going to be creating just that list of items. Let's create that class item. So identifier already changed. So the item is containing a list of numbers. List of numbers, and it's just a simple list. There's also a property, like the number. And that one contains a get and a set. We have to make those properties explicit. And to do this, we're going to be making a selected number. Going to be this field, and then select the number. So next time I'm going to be using the MVVM pattern, the MVVM toolkit NuGet package. It's going to be a little bit faster, but for this time, let's say for this one. So we're erasing this name of and item. And this one may be null. And we need a property change. So it's new. Need a property change. Okay, so we have that. We don't need the list here. So let's create a new item. Let's create a new item, or actually create a few new items. I need to specify the type this time. Can't use the implicit type. And so in here, just the number of lists, just a list of numbers. Numbers. It's a new of I think it was just 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does it allow me to? No, it doesn't allow me to do this. And selected number is 3. Okay, so that should be good enough. So I'm binding the items. So let's see if we can repro. So let's try out Windows and see if it works. It should. So it's a pretty standard scenario. What did I miss here? So we are not building main page doesn't contain items. It does not contain items because I called it numbers. It's items. So we're good this time. And in the app, what we should be seeing is the fact that the items are automatically selected. So we should have the 3 and the 1, 2, 3, 4 that are on each item because I selected something different. Now, the report was saying that the default item was not selected when the combo box was showing up. So that's what we're going to try to fix and see if it actually repros properly. So maybe it's something that we fixed since then, maybe not. So let's see if it's effectively different. Okay, so it works. So now we're in a bit of a pickle because if it works, that means that there's something specific that may not be. So maybe it's WASM. Let's see. Maybe it's wasm. Let's figure if this is the right one. Oh, still running on the previous app. Let's remove everything. Okay, still working. Okay, so we definitely have something else that's not working properly. And the problem here is that we don't have a repro, so we don't know. Maybe so. Let's take a look again at the thing here. Okay, so we have a two-way. Oh, maybe that's the two-way that I missed. So let's see if it's because there's a two-way binding that happened here. Maybe it's the two-way that breaks everything. It could definitely be. Okay, so that's the two-way. Interesting. Okay, so because we're having a two-way binding, the value is propagated back to the selected value, and it breaks. Okay, so that's interesting. So that is actually the repro. So you see, that's the important part where when creating issues, just putting the code there is not good enough. Most of the time, just creating the sample completely, so we can take the sample and have it run completely is a time saver. So we don't spend a lot of time just trying to figure out what the exact issue could be. Okay, so now that we have a valid repro, let's go and try to figure out what's happening. So McNess is asking, there is an asset folder in the app project, but it's by default not visible or added. Is there a specific reason for that? No, not at all. You can just create the file, the project, you can just create the folder as is, and it will just work. So yeah, you can go ahead. So let me see. I'm not too sure. Oh, I probably have a temporary version of Uno installed, so I'm gonna have to change that number. So let's go and use 48 dev 89. So you're going to be replacing that version all across. Did I miss something? Oh, probably no, it's just the file types that are incorrect. Much better. Okay, so now we're going to set up the Uno solution so that we can actually debug the whole issue. So what we need to do is take the latest generated branch here, because we're debugging a WinUI version of the app. So we're going to be adjusting for this. So this branch is automatically converted from the UWP sources that Uno uses for now in the repository to a WinUI source tree that is used in the app. So this is automatically generated on every commit that happens on master, and you can take that branch to do some test and override the running application inside of the sample app that you're using. But actually, I wonder, because now that we know what the issue is, we could probably just repeat that in a test. Let's do this instead of making a test. So let's go back to master. We're gonna stay on the original source tree. And we're just gonna make a small runtime test to see if we can fix that. Well, actually, at least reproduce it, because that's what is generally important at first. Okay, so let's go here, and we need to go for the next 4, 6, or not, no, that's 4, 6. So let's stay on that 7. We're gonna debug using Skia. So we're gonna be opening the Skia only solution filter. and we're going to create a small test, a small runtime test in the combo box, in the combo box section to try to figure out why we're getting that specific issue. Okay, so in our case, the runtime tests are located in this particular project. And if we search in the test folder, there's the WinUI XAML here. I think we have a combo box. And there are quite a few tests here in combo box, but maybe let's try to find one that's closer to the one that we're looking for. Selected item. We have a few tests with selected items, so that's good. Okay, so let's pick up this one. And we're going to create a new test out of it. Okay. So we're saying it's when selected item two-way binding. Let's do it that way for now. So we have a combo box and we need to make a binding to the items property, items set binding. So we need to wait a little bit for the IntelliSense to pick up the changes. Actually, let's so it's still working. So it's doing a lot of things in the back. So we can see that some of it is going okay. Okay, set binding. So IntelliSense is still there, but we're going to do it manually. So combo box, and we're going to be binding to the selected to the item source, and the binding will be we're just going to be binding one item, so that's going to be the best way to do it. New binding. So it looks like binding here is not defined. Probably need a additional namespace. There you go. And then we need a path. Our path is going to be property path. Just do this. So the property path is going to be selected index. No, it's not. I'm sorry, item source. So it's going to be numbers. That's our numbers for the binding here, and we need a second binding for the selected item. Selected, is it item or index? I don't recall. So we'll take a look here. The binding was a selected item. So interesting is, did I use the right one? Is it selected item or? Okay, so it's selected item because we were using numbers. So selected item is the same one. So that's good. Selected item property. And then this one is going to be selected item. Selected, let's call it selected number. Okay. So we're good here, and it needs to be a two-way binding. So let's make it a two-way here. So we have our two-way binding. Nope. Okay. And then what we want to assert is that when we set a data context to it, we should probably be able to make just a simple anonymous class. So let's try this first. We're calling it, the first one is going to be numbers, new list, 1, 2, 3, list of integers. And we get the selected number. Okay, so that's our first one, and then we're going to be setting the data context of the combo box to we can see that the IntelliSys is not been working on properly there. So we're going to be, when we build the first time, it's going to work. Okay, so there we go. We have our data context, and now what we need to do is just determining that the selected item, so actually the selected number, because we have a two-way value, so that the selected number is the one that we want. So let's try this one first. So we expect it to be 3, and the actual number should be test.selected number. That's the first one. And we also want the selected item on the SUT, so the combo box, to be 3. So now we can run the app and see what happens. Okay. So in those cases, when we have two-way bindings, what could happen is that if the order, it may be that the order of setting the properties is just mixing everything up. Sometimes it's just because the loading is not doing the right things, or maybe we should be muting the selected item update, but we're not doing so. So that could be something that happens there. So we're going to be trying to see in the combo box, or in that context, I think in selector. So the selector class, if we're not doing something the right way, so it could be something like that. So combo box inherits from selector, and that implementation is doing the selection. So the selected items come from that specific interface, from that specific implementation, and it could very well be that we're not doing something properly in there, or actually we're not doing something proper in that class. Otherwise it would work properly. Okay, so we're building Unoskia. And so this is the first build for that particular instance. So it takes a bit more time, but once the build is done, it should go a lot faster. We can actually go take a look at the selected item and see if we have something that is of interest here. So we have selector item changed. We have a change selected item. So we're setting, so there are a few things like change selected item. So we're setting the selected item back to null. We're changing the selected item in multiple locations. It could very well be that's because of the fact that we're setting it through a data binding. Could be something like because we're setting the selected number afterwards. Maybe we're going to see that the binding is not happening in the right sequence. Could be something like that. So we're going to see where that goes. So let's try to find out, let's see if we have other locations where we're setting the selected item. So we're setting it at many locations, but those are in tests. Are we setting it from selector? Changing the selector multiple times, but I think that one is of interest. When change selected items, a change selected item here, we're calling it at multiple locations. So it could be something like that. Okay, so we're down to the sample app. So that's the biggest one. Good. Okay, we're there. So now we're going to go to the unit test runner, the runtime test runner that we have inside of the sample app for Uno. and we're going to figure out if our test is working or not. Okay, so those are HTTP exceptions for some reason. Probably the remote control stuff. This only happens once, then afterwards it goes away. Could probably remove the remote control tooling at that point because it's actually quite annoying. So we're going to do that for the next run for the debugger. Okay, so to get into the runtime tests, we need to click on the button that's going to appear here. Probably going to, okay. So we're searching for our test that is called when selected item two-way binding. So let's just do this and run the test, and it works. Okay, so we're not in the right place. It should be working properly. So let me change quickly the fact that we're using the remote control tooling. I think I'd have it somewhere in there. We have the it's a dependency in the remote control. I don't know if I can remove this one. Let's try it. We'll see. So I'm going to disable the hot reload feature in that context because we're not going to be using it. Okay, so this is not working because most likely we're not having notify property change. Notify property change related changes. So let's alter this one. So let's create a an actual class there, and we're going to take the one that comes from the test that we made previously. Okay, so we're going to be calling it a two-way binding item. So we're going to be using the explicit naming, otherwise it could cause issues. It's a two item. I think we named them the same way. So numbers and select the number. Good. Okay, so let's create the same item here. And we're going to see if we get a different result. So this time it should be building a little bit faster because we have less things that need to be built. Yeah, it's better. So I don't know if some people that are watching the stream, are you using the reference assembly generation that has been introduced recently? I think they defaulted that into Net 7 now. So every project that's in between is generating reference assemblies, and that if the reference assemblies are not changing, then the build goes faster as a result. I think that's what they're trying to migrate to. So do any of you know about this one? They're going to be trying to use that inside of Uno so that the build goes faster when we change a dependent assembly. That's not impacting the public API. So we'll see if that helps. It should, hopefully. Okay, so it's definitely faster. And we should be having a faster startup. Okay, so we have the GTK Skia as well. Okay. Okay, still running. Okay, so it may be something that's related to loading in the UI, in the visual tree then, because we're doing the same thing here. Or maybe it's related to the fact that it's inside of an items control. So then maybe we need to be doing the same feature that we had before. So let's try to do it with an items control now, because it may be the related issue, and maybe it's not a combo box issue, or maybe it's a combination of the two. When we're binding items, maybe there are a few things with the way binding happens inside of an items control. So let's try that. New items control, and we're going to be creating the template manually. So we did items item template. So this is a syntax that doesn't work with WinUI, but we have that for Uno, and it makes it a little bit easier to create sub items. So what we're going to do here is create our combo box and return it at the end of the template. And let's take that one up. And we have a combo box to return. Okay, so we have items control, and then we need to. Do we need to data bind the context? Maybe not. So let's try to create a list of items here. And we're going to see if we can data bind everything. So let's see if we do item control, item source, and we set the test, and then the validation is going to be tricky at that point. So what we need to do is get the container, I would guess. That is going to be tricky. So let's name controls inside, so it's going to be easier to pick up. So let's call. I'm going to take combo. I'm going to name it combo. I don't need to make multiple ones, so let's create just one. And then in the items control, we're going to search for a control that's named combo. And that should do. Okay, so test selected number is not the right one. And that one we can find in the first item of the array that we just created. Okay, so let's try again. So one of the things that I didn't try for this run is to use hot reload to change the test. So the solution is so big that sometimes hot reload doesn't work, but we can try once, because I stopped the build and started again, but we can try that one again. It's actually something that we should probably be doing, is because most of the time the tests we're doing directly on the APIs, and make an external app that's a shell that we can do hot reload onto without having to deal with the rest. The thing is that if we're doing it with Uno UI, then we can't hot reload Uno UI. So that may not be the right way to do it. Oh, let's try it, and we'll see if it works. That was close. I closed the running app just before it started. Okay, so we have a null reference. So let's hook onto the app. Actually, you should be able to start the app again. It shouldn't be building again. Okay, there we go. So probably missed something. My guess would be that the items control did not materialize anything, but let's see. So the combo is probably being null as a result here. Okay, so nothing was created. So that means that we're missing something. And my guess would be that we're missing an items control, an items panel. I'm probably going to have to create that. So items panel. Because in that context, we don't have anything initialized, so we're sometimes missing content. So let's use the stack panel as the items panel. Let's see if it helps. And I stopped the app again. I shouldn't have done that. But at least it goes faster. After a few tries, it picks up that nothing's changed. I think it's related to the up-to-date checks of Visual Studio. Kind of detects everything up, but up to a certain number of retries. They've improved that though. It wasn't always like that. It's still a few things to change. Okay. So you can see that now that I've removed the remote control build, the application starts a little bit faster. Okay, so what do we have? Okay, still no generation of the items, so it may be something else then. Let's see if we can find an items control test. We have an items control test here. So we have initialize taste resources. We have an items control here. Oh, it needs to be associated to. Oh, it needs to be set on the visual tree. Okay, so let's set it to the visual tree. I stopped the app again. Kind of force of habit. Okay. McNets is asking, is that feature available only in the preview version? So I'm not sure which preview version you're talking about. Which feature is it? The hot reload or something else? So no hot reload is available, I think, in all versions, or maybe just maybe starting professional. I'm not too sure, but it's when you have the little flame at the top here, the hot reload feature. Oh, no, I don't think for the faster build. No, it's something that comes. It's just Visual Studio. It's the way they're doing it. It's just when you build multiple times, then it gets faster because it detects that nothing's changed properly. It's not always what's happening. Okay, so we're materializing some things, so that's good. And what do we have now? So do we have our combo box? We do have our combo box, and we can see that the selected number is now 0 because it was loaded. Okay, so the bug really is inside of the fact that the two controls are working against each other somehow. So we're gonna have to figure why that happens, and we're probably gonna be doing that next week, or if it's something that was requested by a client, it may be fixed sooner. So that's it for this week. Thanks everyone for joining and for the questions and interactions. That's nice. And until next week, happy coding. Bye for now.